And I think it's interesting because we've heard and talked about and seen what might be called more routine-based jobs. First line customer support is very formulaic. It's really like left brain only. Once you know what to do and on a high level how that should work, then the rest might be viewed as production, as just thinking it through and doing it step by step.
These infancy issues that we have to deal with, but productivity is just still soaring, and it's not only that I'm more productive as a coder. I can take on anything. I can do my own DevOps. I can code in any framework. I can simultaneously be on top of what's happening in like what is the cutting edge in.
I think this leads on to like a bigger point that I have a view on, but I'm reflecting on constantly, which is related to the job market. And my thesis is that for most jobs, at least most knowledge, like high-level jobs, AI plus human will be better than just AI. And it's interesting, like, now I'm going to drop another historical kind of simile, but like the word Luddite, which most people probably have heard, which is someone who's resistant to new technology, actually came from, when was it? It was like, it was the English workers in the beginning of the 1800s. No matter who you are, if you feed yourself too many negative news over an extended period of time, it's very, very hard to get out of that mindset ever.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Co-Creating with AI, the podcast, which is our journey exploring and understanding the fast-moving world of AI. I'm Martin, and with me as always is Rasmus. How are you today, Rasmus?
I'm good. I've had a really busy morning with customers, but we just kicked off. Really kicked off, like actually working. I just had a kickoff meeting they signed yesterday with probably our dream customer at this stage of the company, like the best awesome company we could work with in the Nordics. I'm not going to spoil the name, but it's a major agency. So that was really fun, and especially it's fun to see them being so like on the ball of AI and like how they think about not only for efficiency but to like expand their product offering. Really fun. And otherwise I'm a little bit tired, don't sleep enough, but having fun. How are you?
I'm good. I'm thinking about just being blown away about the really fast progress being made by AI coding assistants right now. And so this has been like the past few weeks, there's been such amazing rate of improvement. So there's basically a low-key war among the AI coding assistants. It's sort of what's set off by Windsurf, Codim.com launched their own VS Code fork, and they've been offering VS Code extensions before, but now they have their own fork, so they can go deeper into the UI and UX experience. But both Aider and Cursor also have come up with these architect modes, or Cursor Composer we talked about a few episodes back, and these are really maturing now, and people are also, like the users, also maturing in learning how to use the tools. So it's just an amazing pace of both in the end of where the tech is moving and where usage and maturity in knowledge about how to use that tech is moving.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, I see all these X posts on like Cursor's AGI, like I told us to do this, now I'm having a coffee. And I think it's interesting because we've heard and talked about and seen that like what might be called more routine-based jobs, like first line customer support, being like automated to a large extent, like really like Intercom and OpenAI with I think it was with one of the big telco operators in the US going all in on those use cases. But this is like engineers is like the first, or at least the high level job, like the non-routine job that's quickly moving towards larger and larger parts of the job being able to be done by AI. And of course, this firsthand. So I'm just curious, what does it do for you, and what doesn't it do for you? What do you still do now, and how do you think that's going to be evolving given the progress you're seeing in these tools?
Basically, I am, in a way, I'm no longer coding. I'm applying my knowledge in directing the AI to code for me. So I'm less and less typing out code with my keyboard. It's almost eliminated. Like 99% of coding with my fingers on the keyboard is gone, and instead I'm prompting the AI to code, and that's a lot of work. I'm collecting documentation. I'm setting up project descriptions, and I'm giving it everything it needs to do a really good job, and then I'm supervising, looking at what it is it doing, commenting, directing, and sort of being the producer or director of the AI coding assistant's work. But that's a completely different mode of working. And me being an engineer since like 25 years in my professional life has been tremendous. When I've managed startups, when I've been the CEO of startups, but now it's also a really huge plus in not coming from a non-coder background, coming into these tools, because I really know what's going on behind the hood or what the AI is trying to do, and I can help it out when it gets stuck and so on. But we are going to see a fast progression to where perhaps that knowledge is no longer needed, where only like deep product management, perhaps like DevOps or architecture knowledge is needed in order to direct the AI coding assistants.
I think that's interesting because that sort of goes, and maybe I'm biased here because it's my opinion already. So maybe I'm just doing like confirmation bias here. But it makes sense to me that given AI's capabilities, that what will remain is creative work, which might be called, architecture, and interpersonal work, which in engineering would be called product management, which is knowing your customer, understanding what they want, making sensible decisions on how to prioritize, that those are going to be very hard to replace, but that everything in between or below, you might say, is very formulaic. It's really like left brain only. It's like, yeah, I think it's left brain only, and like once you know what to do and on a high level how that should work, then the rest might be viewed as production, as just thinking it through and doing it step by step. So that makes sense to me. But what do you think? Like, what's your sense of? I mean, you're no longer you're reviewing the code, but you're not editing it yourself. Then you're telling the AI to edit it if it does something wrong, and that's enough. Normally, you don't have to go in and actually edit the code. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it really helps to make small units of work, provide small units of work for the AI. So this whole microservices architecture that has been popular the past 20 years, like as one version of writing code, is really helpful as a paradigm to use when you're coding with an AI, because you can, if you, instead of making one like solid colossal code base, if you can make 20 or 30 or maybe 120 microservices that together make up a whole, then each of those can definitely be produced by AI. And it's also amazing to see how different models are good at different things. And there's been a really tremendous benchmark being produced by the AIDER developer, because that's like there's one of the biggest contenders now for this AI coding assistant. King of the Hill battle is a solo dev project called Aider, and so they produced benchmarks where and they in their architecture mode they can produce so much better results if they use O1 preview as the architect and then Sonnet 3.5 as the coder, so to speak. So that they're coming up with uses for the different models in terms of being able to say which model performs best in what role.
That's interesting, because I think what's so amazing about AI is that since it's general purpose technology, usually the insights are general purpose, so to say. And in this case, because we work primarily with, as you know, like research, strategic, and creative work, which sort of Multiply does for its customers. And what you're saying there is basically, hey, you need an overarching process and architecture. You might call a process to get to that goal of the product or the goals. But then you need to pick the right AI coworker for the right part of that work. And maybe even architecture can be architected by, say, O1 preview. But then you need focus. So you needed to do like one microservice at a time, and you still need, or there's still a lot of value from a human in the loop, evaluating, feedbacking, etc. To the AI, even on that level, right? It's not like you let it write 5 microservices and then you just like try it out. You're involved on each of those, right?
Yes.
And you focus on one of them together with AI. Is that correct?
Yeah. There's still a lot of hand-holding be done, and there are moments where it just completely derails, and that's the wrong thing. And there's also like still friction in terms of, even if you tell it to like, don't touch my comments, if I've written a comment, then never delete that comment, and it still like does that time over time and like disregards even specific instructions like that. And so there are still like these infancy issues that we have to deal with, but productivity is just still soaring, and it's not only that I'm more productive as a coder. I can take on anything. I can do my own DevOps. I can code in any framework. I can simultaneously be on top of what's happening in like what is the cutting edge in Node.js and in Python and a bunch of different technologies, where earlier like it was a full-time job to just keep track of one tech stack. One engineer can now, like with an AI coder, can handle many different tech stacks at the same time.
I think this leads on to like a bigger point that I have a view on, but I'm reflecting on constantly, which is related to the job market. And my thesis is that for most jobs, at least most knowledge, like high-level jobs, AI plus human will be better than just AI. So I think this is an example of that still holds true, that you still need the engineer and that human needs to be competent. So it puts, actually, in some ways, it reduces your, like, the need for you to be a great Python and Next.js engineer. But in some ways, it puts the requirement that you need to be a good enough engineer to be able to bridge that, and to work with then a specialist AI in Python and in Next.js. And I think that's really relevant to like the job market question, because, and this is going to lead us into Jevon's paradox as always, but which I believe in. But
what is that? If you explain it to
yeah, sure.
me.
So yeah, sure. Sorry, I was going to get there. I always go on the tangent around it. So Jevons paradox is basically that I think it was observed when the price of oil kind of crashed, when there was some new drilling technology, I think, and the actual total consumption of oil in dollars went up. So even though it was a lot cheaper, people consumed so much more that the total value of oil sold, increased a lot. And this has been the case in a lot of different technology shifts. Even though you think initially that, hey, now one coder can do 10 coders' jobs, and therefore you just need 1/10 of the coders. But actually the demand for coding is so high that, or demand for software is so high that you'll actually want more coders, because now all of a sudden it's economical to use a coder for so many different things, because you just have to pay, 1/10, let's say, of the cost, it costs 1/10 to get the same result. But that leads into a bigger job market question. But I think that's a really interesting proof point where you're starting to see you're seeing the boundaries being pushed most for natural reasons with engineering, and still that holds true right now. But do you have any sense of the job market for engineers? Do we see it? Do you know any indications? I mean, it could be anecdotal of is Jevons paradox holding there, that people there's still a high demand for engineers, or is it that people businesses are actually hiring less there?
I haven't seen any data that engineering hiring is going down actually, and but what I do see is also a lot of pushback among engineers that AI coding is actually something to go into, or take into. There's so many engineers that are still resisting, and not only resisting themselves, but actually pushing back, telling other engineers that they're doing the wrong thing by learning how to code with an AI. And that's something that is sort of dividing the job market and creating opportunity for engineers that do adopt AI coding as a paradigm. But I have actually very little data, and not even much anecdotes on engineering recruitment, what the job market is like. And I think that is an indication that engineering jobs are still in high demand, because otherwise I think we would that could be all over tech news if it was going down sharply. So maybe it's part of this resistance among engineers that not much is moving. There's maybe more of these 10x engineers now that have been more unique in the past. But I saw, for example, in social media, when one engineer was talking about their AI coding, another engineer came in and said that, and basically really pushed back on just using AI, and said that I'm hearing that since you're no longer an engineer, I don't have to take your opinion into regard. So there's evidence of this denial among engineers that is also prevalent among creators, with the AI wars going on in very much in public, but the creators are much more vocal about it than the engineers.
And what do you mean by creators in this case?
I mean, just the debate around AI art. There's so many musicians and artists and photographers that are that think that AI art is outright theft, and that people that use them as tools are just not creators. They're not being creative because they use a tool set that is creating stuff for them. But as the name of this podcast implies, co-creating with AI is a real actual mode of working now.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting, now I'm going to drop another historical kind of simile, but the word Luddite, which most people probably have heard, which is someone who's resistant to new technology, actually came from when was it? It was like, it was the English workers in the beginning of the 1800s that started destroying machinery that could make, replace their work, like in cotton farming, etc. And I just think this is like natural in humans to be afraid of change, and at least in a lot of people. And I wonder if that shapes the dialogue like way more than we think. So for example, I think a lot of the fear around AI actually came around from a bunch of big companies, the hyperscalers, Microsoft, Google, etc., having overhired for many years, and now the stock market tanked, and they were forced by their shareholders to cut costs, like Meta did to improve profitability, because they had so much extra fat that they don't need it.
Sweet.
And then some of them, I think, talked about that, we're not going to hire because of AI, but that wasn't actually the reason. The reason was that they had overhired. And I still don't, I mean, if I just think about it, I've never known a software company that doesn't have a backlog and roadmap that stretches years into the future in what they want to do, and that they don't have time to do it and everything takes longer. So my guess is that the pent-up demand for software engineering is so crazy high that you're actually going to see the Jevons paradox playing out, which is you're going to have a lot more engineers. And another driver behind that is what you just said a bit earlier, which is a lot more people are probably going to be interested and able to become great engineers now. It attracts a whole new class of people, doing Photoshop editing and kind of drawing on a paper, if I want to do like a really hyperbolical kind of comparison. And I think that's true here as well. I mean, I want to find the time to actually do some AI coding.
Yes.
I don't have it right now, but I want to. I've never really felt that urge before to I'm going to learn JavaScript and go through that whole journey, because it's too big of an investment for me personally to learn that.
No, you can
think there's something there.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of fun to be had if you just sit down with Windsurf or Cursor or Aider and just take a couple hours and build a game together and come up with a gaming idea and discuss it with the coding assistant and build it together and just give feedback along the way. Like this is working for me, this is not working, and have patience and provide it with the information it needs. And that's going to be just a lot of fun and a great learning experience for anyone.
Yeah, and I think that just tying the knot a bit on this,
Yeah.
From my perspective, still has not changed given these latest developments, which is AI plus human will be better than just AI in almost every job. And the only jobs that can be fully automated are the ones where actually the human wasn't doing real human work anyhow. First line customer support, reading through the customer support manual and copy pasting an answer. You gave the example of was it the sports writers in the US?
Yeah, there's still a lot of people working with just production of news blurbs from news data, and they are now rapidly getting replaced by AI.
And for me, that's I'm not that doesn't make me sad, because it sort of makes me more sad that someone is doing spending their whole days doing manual data entry, and that they will have to find something else to do. And of course, that's a challenge, right? And
it is a challenge
for society and for them individually. I'm not discounting that at all. But for me, it still seems like progress, just farming the fields manually. I mean, some people like to do that, right? But not 10 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Not 10 hours a day, farming heavy physical labor, so you're worn out in your whole body when you're 40, like people were a few hundred years ago. And I think that's the equivalent mentally is taking place now, where there is actually a lot of, let's call it mental work, computer work. That is, that is very, that tears a lot on the mind and soul of people. And I think I'm positive on that.
And we see the cost of intelligence diminishing by 1 magnitude a year, approximately now, and with no end in sight on that development as well. And I think it's good. Like it's important to stay positive. That's the only way to actually create a positive change. If you live in denial or in negativity, you're not going to be an instrument for positive change. So no matter how worse how bad the bad effects are, I think we need to be positive in order to create the world that works under the new circumstances as well.
Yeah, I agree. Did you ever watch the movie Tomorrowland with like George Clooney?
I don't think I have. No,
It's great. It's great entertainment. And without spoiling it, like the main thing in it is that you have like if you feed the wrong wolf, that's like an old saying. You have the wolf that's like hope and positivity. Another one is like fear and despair. And if you feed that wolf, that actually leads. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that leads to a negative outcome. And there's also like really good research I just saw recently that no matter who you are, if you feed yourself too many negative news over an extended period of time, it's very, very hard to get out of that mindset ever. So you can actually like damage yourself by exposing yourself to too much negativity, which is why I stay like relatively aloof in like horrible news. I don't dive deep into them. I know about them, but I don't dive deep.
Awesome. Thanks, Rasmus, and thank you, dear listener. Stay positive, feed the positive wolf going forward as well.
Great. Thanks, Martin.